Something's going wrong here. Supposed to be going live now. People can probably hear me, but I'm not seeing anything on my live screen. You seeing anything? Yeah? Okay, well, hopefully you got me. And this is going live. I see someone's popped up, but I don't know what happened to the intro there. Anyway, a lot of talking on this one and showing you graphics of the course, and we'll be discussing all aspects of the stopovers, how it works, and how the notice of race actually comes together, and the issues that the entrants have to contend with to actually be an entrant in the race. And there's a bit of pressure on now because it was relatively easy to start the event in Antigua. It was a set date and time, and they sort of got pretty well organised. And now this is leg 2, and it's the start of a whole new section of the course, and they have to comply with a lot of stuff. And if they don't, then they either can't start or they are knocked out of the race and continue on with the adventure. So there's a few things to go through, and I'm just going to cut to it straight away and try and see what's going on. So are you seeing this live, Jane? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go straight to the tracker now, and you can see it's quite a big course. Okay, first of all, everyone knows it's from Panama right over here, and going through the Marquises, which is right there, down through the Tuamotus to French Polynesia. There's a stopover required in French Polynesia as well as Marquises, and then from there all the way across to Tonga, and then finally finishing up in Fiji. So it's a hell of a trip, about nearly 7,000 miles. And it all starts right back here at the start line. I'm going to zoom in, so hopefully you're following this. Sorry, excuse me, I'm still coughing. Jane and I are both getting over the issue of our virus, whatever it was. And I'm going to zoom right into the start line and show you what goes on here. We'll be running the start live, of course, from the guys leaving the marina, and the start is actually at 10 o'clock on Monday. So here's the entrance or departure of the Panama Canal, depending on where you're going. And this is the area where we are based at the moment. And we're actually at Playita Marina. We never did get into Flamenco Marina at this end. All the boats have been working in Shelter Bay Marina on the other side, and it's been quite, they've been really good, you know, quite challenging getting everything coordinated. We'll talk about it at the end when we've gone through the actual course. So this is Flamenco Bay Marina over here on the right, but as I say, we couldn't get in. We're still showing 2 boats there, Christian and Question 2, Gary. They're currently being launched as we speak. There was some delays yesterday, Christian. There was a few delays. Anyway, they couldn't launch yesterday afternoon, so they're launching this morning, and then the trailers go straight back across and pick up Jasmine and Kerry and get them back, and hopefully we'll be able to launch this afternoon. That would have been a lot easier, but as I say, there was some stomping up and down, and it didn't happen. The guys doing the trailer, we'll talk about that in a minute. They're doing a great job. Everyone's hanging in there, but every now and then there's a hiccup. Okay, so this is Playita Marina. They've been fantastic to us. We turned up not really knowing what the situation was on that marina, but it's turned out to be really good. They've been very accommodating. They've given a big discount to all of the entrants because there is a minimum charge by length, but they've sort of circumvented that. And now everyone's settled and they're all racing to get ready for the start on Monday. And so here's the start line. I'll come out of the marina. This is actually the approach entrance channel to the Panama Canal. We can't actually start in that area, but this is the edge of the channel here. So the start line goes from the headland here on the island, and Captain Coconut will be down here somewhere, closing up the line across here. This is the manoeuvring area at the back, and so they'll be crossing the start line from north going south. Okay, and the forecast is for really light headwinds, and it's going to be quite challenging for them to actually get out and around and away from the traffic. There's a massive amount of boats anchored in here, ships and everything anchored in here. There's quite a few currents. When you look at the current line, it's going to be a very challenging few days. After the first day, it's going to be a northwesterly, but still really light. So they're going to be battling to get out of there in any sort of really quick time and get away from all of those hazards. Excuse me, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, so that's the very simple start line. We'll talk to the guys as they're leaving the marina. So there'll be a live happening there, and then we'll stop it, and then we'll go out and we'll be on the line again and see who's there. Now, I'm fully expecting, and I'll talk about that at the end, that not all of the boats are going to be ready to go, which is a whole issue in itself. So we'll see. I think out of the 15 fleet, we'll probably get anywhere between 8 and 12 starters. But let's wait and see how that pans out. And as I say, we'll go through all the boats on the way through when we get there. Another interesting point is we've changed. If you come onto the leaderboard now, I'll just go to the teams. You'll see we've dropped the boat names. Okay, so we're now just calling the positions with the skipper's name. It'll be a bit easier to follow. It's certainly easier to say than some of the boat names, but it just makes it better for you to follow us. So you'll be following the names rather than the boats on the way through. So that's pretty cool there. Now I'm going to go straight through, excuse me, to the Marquises and show you how that works. The Marquises is pretty straightforward in terms of what they've got to do and how they're going to get there. It'll be interesting to see what tracks the different guys take. It's a whole subject in itself, trying to get it down across through the doldrums, across the equator again, and then slowly work their way through. I'm not going to go into that now. That'll come out in the scheme of things when we actually do the regular tracker updates. I'm just tracking. There's a long way across here. Where are we? Here we go. Nope, still going. Okay, so this is the Marquises, and there is a group of iron. They're running northwest. Okay, and there are 3 entry ports where the boat's going to arrive and clear into the customs, immigration, all that sort of stuff, and they have to stay for at least 8 days, and it's up to the entrance where they actually want to clear in. So this course, the Rumline course, is generic. Most will probably go to this northern island called Nuka Hiva. Most of the cruising boats go there, but as I say, they could do anything they want after that. And once they've actually arrived there and stop the clock effectively, it happens from the last anchorage that they have. So if we extend this up, wherever they drop the pick, drop their anchor, that's exactly when their time for the leg will finish and their time for the 8-day stopover begins. And I'll keep pushing this up here. We should be able to go right into the anchorage. You can see a lot of the moored boats there. There's no marina per se. This is the anchorage for Nuka Hiva. So they will sail into this bay. And as they drop the pick, they'll have to take a photograph of their chart plotter with the Citran bear alongside. And we use that as the start time for the 8 days. And they can't leave until a full 8 days later. Having entered and cleared into the country, they're free to do whatever they want. They can go and visit other anchorages and sail around for 8 days, come back to Nuka Hiva and clear out again. And once they've cleared out and get back on their boat, as soon as they start moving again, they've got to photograph, as they pull the anchor up, they've got to photograph their chart plotter again to show that they're underway, and that's when the clock starts for their time at sea. If they're not ready to go, that's fine, but the 8 days will absolutely carry over. Okay, so if they don't leave for 8 or 9 or 10 days, that's fine, but the clock started after 8 days for their sea time. All right, so that's how it happens. And if they wanted to, they could enter into one spot here, and then they could actually get a cruising permit or do whatever to cruise to one of the other islands, right? And then clear out of that other island, do their final exit departure from the other island. That'll be up to them to decide whether they want to do that. There may be a competitive advantage to that if they wanted to, and that's again up to them on how they want to interpret that. We're not getting involved with those issues. That's entirely up to the entrant. All we want to see is that they actually stop there physically for 8 days and enjoy enjoy the opportunity, because I've never been to the Marquises. I've read all about them, and it's a classic stopover, and it's really quite spectacular and beautiful, and lots of other sailing boats there and so on. So that's Nukuhiva. Then when they leave there, it gets some tricky navigation because they've got to go through the Tuamotus. Now, this is paradise. This is heaven on earth. And I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of them decide to stop in one of these lagoons. They'll just pick, let's say, we'll pick Whakarava there. We'll just zero in on that. And you can see these are quintessential South Pacific coral atolls, right? Beautiful lagoons, extending reefs on the outside, nice anchorages, small settlements on a lot of them, incredible diving. You know, I've spent weeks down here doing past dives, shark dives, all that sort of stuff when I was working on a Russian expedition ship. Spent a lot of time in this area, and it's just stunning. So they're going to have to sail straight through that and decide if they want to stop somewhere or keep going. If they do stop, the clock is still going, so they're racing, and then they've got to make their way down here to Papeete. Now, this one's going to be a challenging stopover, but an important one because it brings them into the capital. And they need to clear customs again, immigration, all the rest of it, and they've got to stay for at least 7 days here. And so this one has a trigger, a gate that they have to go through. And this is the gate. This is the lead lights coming into Papeete Harbour, right? So it can be crossed at night time. They can cross any way they want. They can come from the north to the west, or the northeast to the southwest, or they can come the other way, but I can't imagine anyone will do that. So once they cross that line, again, they've got to take a photo of their chart plotter with Citran Bear, and that's when the clock starts for them. And it will go for 7 days. They have to stay here for at least 7 days. Now, the biggest challenge about stopping in Papeete is it's the peak season for cruising boats, and every marina berth will be full. You can't pre-book a marina. You've got to find somewhere to go. So my advice to them all will first of all be, there's only one marina in the city, which is over here, right? And if they can't get in there, and generally it's highly unlikely they will, but there's a way of scamming your way in, this is the place to be, because once you're there, you can tie up somewhere and you walk into town, everything's there, it's close by, and it can make life easy. Now, I'm going to extend this up and just show you what they're going to have to contend with. That's as big as it goes, but the office of the marina is just here on the corner. This is one marina arm. It has a little bridge coming onto it, and these boats are moored fore and aft. They may be able to raft up alongside someone if they're sympathetic, then go and see the office and see if they can stay there. There's a couple of little spots on this ramp either side that no boats moor on because it's too small, but a 580 would fit there perfectly. The other option they've got is to try and find a spot in here. Again, the interesting one is in between this arm of the marina, all the way along the edge. This is the main drag here. Big walkway, people are always walking down the side. You can actually squeak some 580s in along between the pontoon and the wall. It's quite an interesting spot, and you could fit 5 or 6 580s in there if they'll let you get in there. There's no mooring bollards on the pontoon, but that's another option. And or again, raft up to a friendly sailor there that's happy to let a 580 sit alongside for 7 days and then bolt again. But this is the objective. If they don't get in there, it gets quite complicated. They're all using a crewing agent called Tahiti Crew, which is highly recommended. You know, we've used them every time we've been in there, which is a few times when we bought boats there and sailed away. So here's the harbour again. There's nowhere to anchor in the harbour. There is one little free wharf here that people can tie up to for free. There's a lot of surge and it bounces around. So if they come in the harbour here, you can't anchor anywhere in here. You've got to start making your way to the actual recognised cruising boat anchorage. This is the airstrip. You can't go past that until you call the airfield and get approval to pass the end of the strip, because the mast sticking up can affect the landing. So they've got to do that. And then they come right down here, and this is the actual anchorage. And it's about a mile in. And then once you're there, there's absolutely nowhere to go. You need a tender with a big outboard so you can rush back into town. There's nowhere to land your tender here, so it's a bit pointless. So it's going to be very challenging for a 580. And then the next, on the way down to the marina, it's 2 miles from there. So you can't anchor there and row your tender for 2 miles to get down to the actual main marina, which is also where Tahiti Crew hang out. These are all moorings here. And here's the Tiana Marina. That's where Tahiti Crew is. And my suggestion is going to be that they try and get in here and anchor in the mooring pool, because if they anchor in there, it's quarter of a mile across here or something. So it's still quite a row. But again, this will be chock-a-block with cruising boats. It's really hard to get anywhere. Tahiti crew will be doing everything they can to try and give them some sort of satisfaction with a berth somewhere, but I wouldn't be surprised if nothing's possible and they're on the anchor using their tenders or blow up paddleboard, stand-up board to get back and forwards. And anyway, they'll be joining the fray, but there will be cruising boats everywhere there. So that's it's a beautiful place. It's a great lagoon. It's quite interesting being there. It's a classic. We need to do it, but it's going to be some frustrations there for sure as well. So anyway, then once we get out of here, it's across to Tonga, about 1,200 miles. This could be quite a challenging sail when you go across, going down underneath Maria there. The weather here can actually blow up a bit. So it's trade winds. It should all be behind them, right? Going all the way across here, heading towards Tonga, but it's not unusual to get caught somewhere here. When I say caught, some pretty interesting sea state. Past the Cooks and Palmerston Island. These are great spots to stop if you ever come this way, but they'll be sailing through straight past Niue, and then they get to Tonga. Now, Tonga's spread over a bit of a distance. You've got Niafu in the north, and that's Vavau. That's the northern end of the island. You've got Nuku'alofa and Tongatapu in the south. That's the capital city. And in the middle, you've got the Hapai group of islands down here, and that's really paradise. The Hapai group for cruising on boats is just stunning, without question. So the idea is, we're saying at the moment, the idea is it's Pangai is the port of entry, also Vavau is the port of entry, and also Tongatapu here in the south. So an entrant can decide to go wherever they want. If they want to go into Vavau, they can do that, but there's challenges because it's about a 6-mile approach where it'd be hard sailing up to the anchorage. And in Nuku'alofa, it's a bit the same. You've got a big sailing approach. So I'll first of all describe Pangai, and then I'll show you the other options that can go through. So if we just build this up, and then I'll also show you some pictures from the sailing instructions in a minute. So first of all, you can see these are the main islands, and they've got passes in between all of them. This is the island of Lifu here. And Pangai is sort of like the capital of Lifu. The king's got a residence there in Pangai, like another summer residence or something. Easy approach. You come in around the top of the island, and then it's well protected, sort of heading down towards Pangai. So you can actually get reasonably close in the dark, sailing in. They'll all have their chart plotters. Some beautiful spots down here, but you wouldn't want to approach this part when you're coming. You come across and down into the lagoon. This is a lagoon here, and then there's a gate that they have to get to cross over. And once they cross that gate, that's when the clock starts again. This is actually a big anchorage here, so they cross that gate and they can anchor. But the clock starts crossing the gate. They've got to photograph their chart plotter again with the Citroën Bear, and that's when their time starts. And they've got 8 days to spend here in Pangai. And there's a couple of things they can do. So once they're in the anchorage there, this is the township of Pangai. Customs immigration right there. You can come in the harbour. They can actually anchor at the bottom end of the harbour. They can tie up stern to a wall like a med mooring and go and do everything. There's shop, a little supermarket and so on. And then for the 8 days, what I would imagine they would do is they could just hang out there and rest, because it would have taken them about 12 days sailing to get here, maybe. And then 5 miles down the road, you just come up the road here. That's the main airport there. There's just beautiful anchorages, cruising anchorages, and just coral and fantastic beaches, interesting to resort. This is one of the areas I'd suggest they go up and hang out. It's just stunning. You could spend a week there and not get bored. A lot going on. It's early in the season for the whales, so but they should start to see some of the early whales coming through to calf. This is a very big area for whales behind these islands, so that's an area they can hang out. And at the same on the other end, there'll be quite a few cruising boats in there as well. These anchorages down here in Oliva Island, in here and there, fantastic, huge white sandy beaches, great coral. There's a kite surfing resort there, so on. So they've got plenty to keep them occupied for the 8 days they're there. Okay, so that's the story for Pangai. And then if they came through to the Val, I'll show you the challenges that they've got there. Not too far. Nope. Let's go on. There we go. In the Val. Okay. Basically, what you've got to do, you've got to come in around the back here, and then by the time you get there, you've really got to start. You've got to start motoring up the bloody, or not really motor. You could tack up here and so on, but it's about 6 miles, so it's quite a challenge to get in there. This is the actual town of Nyafu. Customs immigration up there again. There's a big harbour here. It's very deep, but you can anchor along the sides, and there's moorings there and so on. So that's another option. But coming in through here in a 580, it's sailing, very small passes there, get up there. But that is another option. And it could be a competitive advantage if, depending on the weather and how they're actually sailing, coming down from Tahiti. So that's an option. All they've got to do then when they anchor in Niafu is from the time they drop the anchor to the time they leave again, they've got to take photos both ways. Coming into Nuku'alofa, the capital of Tonga, it's the same thing. You can actually approach down this pass. Believe it or not, Captain Cook came in here with bloody Endeavour. No, not Endeavour. But anyway, sailing square riggers down here. Astrolabe came in here. They ran aground, all sorts of fun stuff. And then you've got to get in and anchor either just off the port, or if you know what's going on and the wharf's clear, you can actually come right into the port, which is quite interesting. Here, this is the main port. You can come in here, tie up to a wall, so that's an option as well. This is a Navy base here, and this is another new ferry terminal here that comes through. So that's another option, but certainly the cruising option up in Pangai is really quintessential Pacific Island stuff. So that's the scenario there. Then if I come back, there's an interesting bit there out of Pangai when you leave. Okay, so when you clear Pangai, it's pretty clear straight out. You can get through all the hazards in a day, or very quickly in a matter of hours. You're outside the island. Then you're sailing the direct course. You're going right past Tafua. Now this is an active volcano. It's pumping away. Right, there's a vent there which has got a lava lake in it. Very active. It's not the volcano that blew up that wiped us out in Hapai. That's further south, but it's very spectacular. Cow is an old cone there. They're very spectacular. If they sail through here, they'll see the volcano pumping. If they wanted to, they could actually stop and go and climb the volcano and have a look, but I don't think they will. They'll be on their way to Fiji, and it's about 3.5, 4 day sail, depending on the breeze, coming through, and they're making their way over to around the corner, around here to Nandi and Vuda Marina. So this is pretty easy. They'll have their chart plotters, pretty easy passage. If they're lucky, the trades will hold. You can cut through these passes here. I've gone through there at night time, but depends. And then the entry into Suva is actually pretty challenging to a degree if you've never been there. You just got to know what you're doing, and it's all very clear. So the first thing that happens is we have 2 finish lines, okay? The main finish line, the one that we use, is right over here inside the lagoon, okay, directly off of Vuda Marina. And that's quite easy approach. We've done this heaps of times. This is the main pass to come in. This is like a mile across. This is half a mile across. Very clear of hazards. That's Cloudbreak, very famous surf spot there, because you get the swells coming in this way. So you could, I'm not going to say they should or would, but if you wanted to, it's not unusual to sail in here in the dark because it is wide open, and there's not a huge amount of current there because it's a big pass. This pass is a little bit different. It's got the lead lights on it, and that's where there is an auxiliary or a secondary finish line if we wanted to use it for some strange reason. But this is tricky because there's a huge amount of water comes out of here. You'll get 3-4 knot currents in there at time, depending on what the tide's doing, all that stuff. So it's not the best place to come through. So entering here, some might want to wait until daylight, which is part of the challenge of sailing through the Pacific, and some others may try and get through at night time, just depends. By the time you sail across here, it's all flat water. If the southeasters are going, it's a reach. There are a few isolated bommies, but they're all well charted. And then when we get to Vuda, I'm just going to build this up here and show you exactly what's happening. This is going to be one of the fun stopovers. So there's the finish line right off the entrance. So if you're in Vuda with your boat, you can come out in a tender. That's part of the idea of putting it here. You've got plenty of space to cross the line, but that could be a bit of fun to have tenders come out and meet people. Then this is the main pool of Vuda, and they've built this new pool now, still putting marina arms in. There's a lot more in there now. All these boats are stored in here over the cyclone season. They dig a hole and you put the keel in. Our boat is waiting there. That'll be the office. And then this is where the main marina takes place. There's the restaurants and the bar and the offices and toilets and showers and all lots of stuff, really good facilities. And this little pool here is going to be the 580 pool. All the 580s will be in this pool along, on a med mooring style up against a pontoon. And it's right where the action is. So all of our activities will happen there. And Vuda are very excited about having us there. And yeah, just wait and see what happens. It's going to be a lot of fun. And a lot of families are coming in at that stage. So that's where all that's going to be happening. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the start here, and I'm going to call up I'm going to call up a few pictures and see what we got. Okay, so now this is just the chart from the sailing instructions, just to show you where things are happening again. You should be looking at the actual start line. Okay. So this is the start line straight across here, and you can see Playa Marina there. They're traveling from north to south, so that's pretty straightforward. And there's the canal coming in. We go right up to the edge of the canal. There's a buoy there. That's one end of the line, and Coconut will actually be setting the distance mark to keep everyone moving along from there. So now I'm going to go to another one. I've got to do this in sequence here. Hang on. Okay, so this is after the Marquesas. Is not a lot to look at because it's an island stopover. That's straightforward. This is the entrance leads for Papeete. That's what I was showing you previously. So once they cross that line, then they're taking their time. Okay, so they take their time once they cross the line, and I'm really hoping that most or some or whatever get across here into the city marina, because it'll make life really quite fun and exciting. If they've got to come down here past the airstrip and go, play on at anchor and everything, it gets a little bit more complicated. So so anyway, that's part of the course, and that's the trigger line for their stopover. Okay, then the next one, I'm going to flip through these to get the sequence. Okay, so this is the island Lefuka and Pangai. I just showed you. You come around from this way. There's also another open pass, which is very easy. You can actually sail in here in daylight. I wouldn't do it at night time. Underneath the island and around back into Pangai. That entry pass is a ferry that goes in there day and night. It's all marked and lit and beacons and lights and everything to get into the lagoon, so it's not so bad. Okay, it's challenging, but it's normal, typical navigation in the Pacific. Here it is. Here you come in down the bottom, around the corner, come in the pass that way, or from the north. That's their anchorage. They can anchor out, or they can actually then also come into the harbour. Hang on, I'll just show you. Come into the harbour here. Okay, so you can see here customs that's really close. You can have med-style moorings here. You can actually anchor because it's quite shallow. It's a good holding ground, so you don't need a lot of scope. So you can just anchor out here as well. This is where you come into the harbour. It's a quintessential, typical Tongan island, and the people are friendly. They'll absolutely get the feel of what Tonga's like, and then they've got time to go down to the anchorages 5 miles north or 3 miles south, and you've got some great spots there to have a bit of fun. So then, hang on, flick through. You've seen Vuda. So these are the finish lines. This is the auxiliary line, but we're using the B finish line up the top there for Vuda Marina. So that's pretty much everything there. That what's this thing down here? Are you, Jane, are you seeing I've got some strange bloody sounds really challenging? What support will there be? Oh, that's I'm not sure whether that's squeezing up the screen. There's something going on here with a hide message from the stream. There it goes, it's gone. Okay, so before I get into the questions and so on, I'm just going to go through a couple of things that all the entrants are going through with their departure here. Now, this sheet, this is a hard copy of a sheet. You'll see there's 25 boxes there. The manager, every time they go into a stopover port, right, pit stop, they have to tick a series of boxes before they can leave, right? They have to certainly give us their finish time so that we can monitor the number of days they have in port and so on. And I'm going to read to you when they're ready to leave, right? So they're about to leave, they have to check all their systems and then get their manager to tick all the boxes. First one is voyage plan confirmed with an ETA. Okay, hang on, I've got more bloody things sticking up here which I don't want. So they've got to actually decide on their voyage plan, where they're going, do their advance notice and so on, and confirm to their manager that that's done. But their manager will be involved with that, so they'll know that's actually correct as well. Advance notice to the next country delivered, right? So the manager does that. We've got to inform the next of kin that they're about to depart, because the next of kin are on their EPIRBs and PLBs and so on. So if they go up, the next of kin absolutely need to know that they're at sea now, not in port. So that's required. They've got to confirm that all watertight bulkheads, hull and hatches are secure. In other words, if there's a hatch that's been damaged, they can't confirm that, so therefore they can't tick that box, so therefore they can't leave, right? It's reported as a defect. They've got to confirm their electric bilge pump is operational. In other words, it's been tested. They've got to confirm that their electrical charging system is fully operational. So we don't want them to leave port if all their electricals are stuffed and they've got no power. They've got to test their sat phone number one, right? So they have an active sat phone working. They've got to make sure that's working and ring their manager. They've got to check that sat phone number two. They require two satellite communication systems, that the battery is fully charged and it's in the grab bag ready to abandon ship. So if they abandon ship with one sat phone in there, it doesn't have to be activated, but it can be activated if they lose comms and we think there's a requirement to do it, and the manager must know how to activate that SIM, that second SIM, very quickly. They've got to have a minimum of 100 litres of water plus another 9 litres emergency water on board. That's the minimum. In this particular leg, they'll be taking anywhere from 140 to 160 litres of water and so on, but it's up to them to confirm they've got the water on board. They've got to confirm both their fixed onboard VHF with their aerial at the top of the mast and their handhelds are both operational. They've got to confirm their outboard is operational. If their outboard's not working, they can't leave, because we want to make sure they're independent and not requiring assistance everywhere they go. Their radar transponder has to be working. That's the EchoMax radar transponder. Their AIS has to be working. Their primary YB3 has to be charged and tracking actively on the MGR page. So the manager is the one responsible for making sure the tracker is working. It's not us. We can't be on top of every entrant all the time. When we overview, we might not pick up that one of the entrant trackers is actually running behind time, right, and not being updated. The manager's responsible for that, and they've got to send us a message to say, hey, our tracker's 6 hours behind or 8 hours behind or something. Second standby YB3 charged and in the grab bag. They've got to make sure before they depart that it's fully charged and ready to go. Extra communications operational. So some of them have got, now virtually every boat has got Starlink now. And we want to know what the status is of all their systems. So if they've registered to say they've got Starlink on board, then we want to know it's working. If it's not working, it's not going to stop them from going, but we just want to know what they're leaving with. First aid kit stocked and complete. If they've used any of the drugs in the kit, they've either got to report that so we know what drugs they're missing, or their primary goal is to replace those drugs. Now, in some places it might not be possible, but they've got to report that as a defect if it's not correct. GPS chart plotter has to be working. We've got to, because that's critical for Pacific navigation, so we want to know it's working. They've got handheld GPS as well, and any number of GPS readouts and satellite phones and so on, and they've got paper charts. They have to have paper charts. So as a fallback position, they're still okay, but we want to know that their chart plot is working. Panic bag complete and correct. We've got to make sure they've got to confirm that their panic bag is fully stocked and they didn't use anything and it's sealed, ready to go, and so on. They've got to confirm once again that their liability insurance is valid. Right? We have all the data on their liability insurance, but they need to double check to make sure it's still valid. All shore-based bills, port fees, accounts paid. There's often, or in fact, there is always bills to be paid when they leave. A lot of the ports they're going to visit, they'll have a lighthouse fee, bits and pieces. So they have to confirm that's the case. We don't want anyone running out of town with any bills, even if they've used the services of someone. They've got to make sure they pay before they leave. And if we find out they haven't, and those people that owe the money come back to us, we can actually apply pressure to make sure they do. But I know they all do, so it's okay. All previous leg photos, videos sent to MGR Control. Now, you probably may not know that we have a joint copyright sharing arrangement with all their onboard footage. The entrants can't leave a port until they give us copies of all of their photographs and videos. Now, I'll talk a bit more about that because some are deficient on that at the moment, and unless we get them, they might not be starting on Monday. So some of it's challenges with the internet, which we try and overcome. So we can be flexible and we give them dispensation and so on, but it's very important that we get those records for keeping you guys updated. We will cut that into different things, and also for the future, for the history of this event. People will be looking back in 100 years thinking, whoa, wow, look at that. And so we've got an archive of exactly what's happening, so it's quite fun. Arrival GPS and Citran Bear photos sent to MGR Control. So if they're finishing a leg, they've got to take their own times, even though we've got it off the tracker, and then take the photo on their chart plotter of their finish and then send us copies of that. So that's the photographic record is the final proof to say that, yes, that's correct, because there's some in the event that are very competitive. It's a real race and they want to win the MGR. Others are there for the adventure, so we need to have various forms of proving what the timelines are and so on. All departure flags and cockpit lee cloths fitted, so they've got to fly the MGR flags, the McIntyre flag, the Vuda flag when they come into Vuda, all that sort of stuff with their lee cloths on, and they've got to fly them even when they're in Marquises, when they're not there, and in Papeete, and they have to take photographic evidence of that. And if they fail to do that, fail to fly the gear, then they can be penalised, a time penalty as well as a financial penalty, because it's got to do with sponsors. We're sort of a sponsor, we don't care, but one day we want to get a sponsor, and that becomes very important for the sponsor to see that their names are up front and getting exposure. And then there's a departure GPS picture as well. So the manager gets that, and until the manager sends this back to us with any defect list, because there might be something that they can't comply with, they've got to notify us of that, and then we'll make the decision whether we want to let them go or what they should do or shouldn't do. And then that's signed by the manager and sent to us, and then we'll finally give them the green light to get going. If they haven't got that green light, then they won't be going. They have to wait. We say, if it's critical, so look, you can't leave. It's critical. You have to wait. The clock's still ticking. You better fix it up. And so that's been been very important controls that we have to make sure it's all right. The other thing is, of course, the complying with the requirements of the notice of race. And suffice to say, some of the entrants are still struggling with the requirement to be competent celestial navigators, and D-Day has arrived. So we're trying to assist them as best we can, but the onus is on them to meet all the requirements of the notice of race. And to be quite honest, some have taken a very poor attitude of the responsibility to make sure they can do that, right? And it's not my problem. This is a race, and there are safety reasons to make sure that they comply. And so now there's a few entrants under pressure to make sure they can actually do that before they leave here. That's going to stop some entrants from leaving, okay? Because until they can do it, if they leave without that, or satisfy us to the point that we're prepared to let them go a little bit further, then they're not in the race. Now, this is another big issue. As you know, they're all independent voyages. We're ruling the roost on this because some people are racing, right? And we have to respect their position. And I've already briefed the entrants in the last leg that I've got to be a bit of a policeman on a lot of this now and be the bad guy. Try to be a nice guy, but if I have to be the bad guy, I have to be the bad guy. And so watch this space. There might be some developments there. So as an independent voyager, if someone's unable to meet a requirement in the notice of race, then they will be dropped out of the racing contingent and go into another division, which we're yet to name. We might name it the John Guswell class, which means they're involved with the event. They're sailing around the world. They're unable to meet the requirement of the notice of race. But as long as we believe generally they're still safe, then they maintain their status in the event. We talk about them, everything stays the same. They can just never win any prizes and any trophies and so on. Okay, so that's an evolving situation as well. It's been quite an interesting stopover for us and the entrants. Remembering, of course, that this is the first time the MG has happened. We've had the biggest task is getting the boats across from one side to the other, and that's been an adventure, and it's all worked out okay. Everyone involved, from the Jose, who's doing the trailer work and so on, they're doing a great job. You know, we had some hiccups in the beginning, and then he completely turned that on its head. Got two really good trailers. You know, spent a lot of money modifying them, and he's been dealing with the official side. We've had interactions with police on three different occasions, and even the police are trying to help us. It's all new ground. Normally, when you enter into Panama, you come in, customs, immigration, the boat's in the water. You just meant to stay in the water. Yeah, bring it out on the hard and paint the bottom, put it back in the water. We've got the issue where we've actually come into the country and taken them across the isthmus and then put it back in the water on the other side. And it's created some interesting scenarios, which I won't talk about too much until we're all gone. But everyone has been good. The Panamanian officials have been good. The police have been good. Jose's been fantastic, and a couple of the entrants have been pissed off, but that's life. It's an adventure. There was no guarantees on any of this, and the price has been really good. Basically, it's cost about $850 US to get them across. They've had to pull their boats out on the other side at Shelter Bay Marina, and different people did that different ways. You know, they want to paint the bottom, they want to work on the bottom. And Shelter Bay were challenged because there's two lots of groups there. There's the travel lift program, and then there's the in and out, the storage on shore, and all this sort of coordinating. And then the entrants got to make sure they paid their bills on time, you know, so it doesn't hold up the works, and that's caused problems with the trailer deliveries, and you know, getting back across here and try and launch the same day, and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, we're down to our last two boats. We had a hiccup yesterday because one of the boats caused a problem that caused a delay, so we couldn't launch last night. And now they're launching, so they've got to get back today and hopefully get picked up and brought back and in the water by 4 o'clock. If that's the case, then Jasmine and Kerry will be in the water, and that's the last of it. So we're right on top of the start, so they'll have Saturday, Sunday to get organised, get their masts up. Kerry's been particularly busy. His boat got wiped out on the last leg, as you know. He's been rebuilding everything, and he didn't want to leave until the last minute to get all the work done. And that's now happened. I haven't seen him for the last 3 days or so, but I'm sure he's going to be busy right up to the end. Jasmine's been busy doing all sorts of stuff, and she wanted to stay till late, but I think she's right now. I think she had the time to do the bottom paint, and should be looking good to get it going. And there's now no excuses for anyone not to be ready to go on start day. But I've got to say, some people have enjoyed their time in Panama and having good holidays, and it's a great place. It's very interesting. We're in Cologne at the moment. We're not in Cologne. We're in Panama City right now, on the other side. It's like Hong Kong, you know, sky high, sky rise, you know, all that sort of stuff. Completely different Cologne on the other side, but it's been a very interesting stopover, and I think everyone's done a great job. Originally, we planned to be here for nearly a month, but we compressed the time here to give us more time going across the paddock on the next leg, because it's going to take time. So unfortunately we did in some ways, because some are ready to go, and I won't call it too expensive, but it's not cheap, you know. On average, it's about $50 a day on the marina, whichever side you're on, and so on. So yeah, it's been a hectic time. To launch over this side, it's cost on average about $150 at Flamenco Dry Stack, using a big forklift to get them in the water. Some of them had storage overnight, which added a bit, and then everyone's sort of settled here, getting ready to go, do their last shopping, get the rigs up. We had two issues with rigs. We buggered up, bent the rigging screws. First one was on Trekker. There's two main rigging screws on the midships. One's for the cat shroud, one's for the rear, for the lowers. And there's this situation where when the standing rigging slack, the toggle and the rigging screw falls down. And then as you leverage to pull the mast up, if you're not watching, it'll get hooked, and it just bent the thread on the rigging screw. So there was a major panic that I got onto Sparcraft in La Rochelle, who were really good. We had another one underway for Ertz, and literally within 24 hours, and it actually got here 3 days later, which was really good. So urchins fixed, and then it happened again with John on John's 99 or 100. He's 100, I think. He bent his ring screw as well, so that was a bit of a blow. But there's been some spares around, so he's now mobile. So all the masts and everything have been going up pretty well. I can't think of anything else. The big one for excuse me, John and Popeye was their electric outboard. They got the e-propulsion there. There's a bit of an issue there. To give you an idea, when I did the Transat, I had my e-propulsion outboard off the transom and stored in its bag up in the forecastle, and the battery under the chart table before the 10-minute gun, right? Because I figured I wouldn't use it across the Atlantic. But a lot of these guys are leaving their outboards on the back of the boat all the way. So in other words, they've had their e-propulsion on the back of the boat all the way across the Atlantic and all the way across in the last leg. And basically, it's not the place to leave your electric outboard. So terminals are being challenged and other bits and pieces. I'm surprised they weren't wiped off the back of the boat. And so they've replaced their e-propulsion with the latest Mercury, which is really interesting. So they've got 2 Mercury electric outboards on there, a little bit more powerful than the e-propulsion, and I think they're going to carry the other ones with them for spares for whatever. What else? Most people have been looking okay, so we'll find out tomorrow. We've got a big briefing tomorrow on all the bits for the entrance to go through all those issues of the leg to keep them going. So that's the briefing tomorrow. That'll be determined on whether Kerry and Jasmine get in the water, what time, the timeline anyway. It might be later or earlier. So that's that. We had an interesting situation where I decided to try and play around with the idea of a couple of the tail enders, not the leaders. The tail enders had already declared they're not going to be ready to start till Wednesday maybe. And so I thought, they're not fussed, but just to keep them in the hunt, maybe I could give them a credit for the time off the stopovers and stuff. And so I suggested that on a tweet to everyone, but it very quickly became tactical. People were starting to work out, if we leave late, we can probably wait until the breeze turns up. And, so they were using the concept of trying to keep people moving into a tactical thing. And so we knocked it on the head. I just blew it apart and said, forget it. That's it. Start day, 10 o'clock Monday. The clock's running. You miss out. That's fine. That's how it works. So now it'll be literally a case of there's still no one's fully complied yet, so no one's ready to go. That's normal. You've got to go through all these checklists and everything, and then when you get to the point where we can issue a green card, then they can actually race. So I've got no idea how many are going to be ready to go, but as I say, I think there could be 3 or 4 that may be not ready to start on Monday, and that's part of the deal. Okay, I think that's probably cover off on everything that's been going on. Now I'll see if I can get back here and see if there's any questions and see how it's going. G'day, Rachel. Blah, blah, blah. Good morning, Christine. Bill, hey, Don, is the idea with the twin trans dagger boards to improve directional stability downwind? Are they effective? Are they used on the points of sail? Do they increase drag? Well, they obviously increase drag. You've got another fin in the water. Do they increase stability? I believe they do. I played around with mine on Trekker for some time and never quite saw any huge difference, but it was nice to know they're there. And certainly you could use just one occasionally when you're healing and stuff like that. So everyone's got a different opinion. Interestingly now, the way it's all evolved with the Hydrovane, I think there is some real, this opens another can of worms, there's some real interesting performance issues going on now with the effect of having the main rudder of the 580 right there and the Hydrovane rudder right next to it, and then they're all joining them together. So you effectively got 2 rudders working in unison. And boy, you've only got we sat behind one boat for 3 hours while it was towing across the land. And I'm looking at the 2 rudders hanging there and thinking, jeepers, that's dynamite. That's a whole subject in itself. Then you don't need your dagger boards, right? If you've got 2 blades there. So there's some, whether there's performance gains there, but I have no doubt that would absolutely stabilise the boat a little bit. So yes, there is some reasons to have those dagger boards, and but the court's out on exactly. There's so many different combinations that it's going to be up to the skipper to decide when and where and how to use them effectively. There's no guidebook on that. It's up to you. They're not mandatory. They're optional, and most of the boats put it on. So anyway, how did Argo's bottom hold up? Oh, I haven't seen him bend over. I'm not sure. He used foil versus bottom paint, I think. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, he did actually, and I haven't asked him. So, but it was only. But anyway, well, it's a good point. I'm not sure. I didn't check, but I was quite interested in that because I did a lot of research on that for the Golden Globe race, not for me to enter in it, just as an option, because it's a big issue in the Golden Globe, barnacles. So I haven't seen, but most of the boats, even with whatever they've got, didn't have any major issues with barnacles. So, and certainly Gary at the moment, he just put a little bit of anti-fouling on when he was in Antigua, just at the top of the keel and the bottom of the keel, and that's what he's going with. I don't think he's put any paint on at all, so he's going to carry right through to Fiji and see what happens. Okay, good, Brian. That sounds really challenging. What support will there be? None. Basically, they're on their own when they leave here. That's part of the deal. These are pit stops, so we'll be meeting in Fiji, and then basically in Fiji we still don't do much. Just finish them and have some parties and briefings and discuss the next leg, leg 3 to Cape Town, which is very challenging. And there's still some discussions on where the stopover ports and how we manage that. So, but they're all independent voyages, and that's part of the challenge of getting around, and that's part of the satisfaction of pulling it all off. So the biggest change, of course, is everyone's basically got Starling now. Not everyone. Canada Dan hasn't got Starling, but nearly everyone else has got them. They're $200 here to buy them. But the big cost is the monthly fee, and the marine monthly fee is quite expensive. But if I was doing it, I would probably go with the coastal roaming, because yes, you won't get much use of it on this leg. Maybe have the marine fee on that and then pull it off, because after that you'd only be blind for a week or something in between Papeete and Tonga, and then everywhere you go all the way to Fiji, you're on coastal pretty often, because there's islands all the way through. So anyway, kind of interesting. Papeete is about the worst place to go in French port. Poor, dirty, noisy, like hell, and ferries run. And yeah, it is, but it's Papeete. That's the deal. So we spent quite a lot of time there. It's not the quintessential paradise, but it's Papeete, and it is awkward. It's awkward for everyone. But if that's where you need to go to be there. So anyway, and hopefully Tahiti crew will be pushing through. G'day, Eli. Christine, what are the costs of marinas and immigration for this leg? Well, there's no marinas on this leg. There is, but it depends on where they're at and where they end up, but it varies. So, I can't give you an idea on that, but here it's about $50 a day. So that will vary all the way through, and they'll no doubt talk about it when they're in different spots. So that's straightforward. Jonathan, no worries. There's no way you're the bad guy. Oh, no, I can be the bad guy when I have to be. When you require skippers to follow the guidelines, hit the like button. Yep. So, yeah, that's a good point. We're still not up to where we were on the Transat. On the Transat, we got 8,500 followers or something, and we're still only running less than 7 or something. So if you like what you're seeing here, or subscribe to YouTube, like our Facebook page, make comments, all that sort of stuff. It helps us show the real world what we're doing. So that's cool. Thanks, Jonathan. Import duty on the boats? No. We're in transit. But there was an issue there. We had to be very careful, because it's unusual to come out and go overland, right? And so, but as I say, everyone's been fair and reasonable, and no one stopped us yet. But when you come in with your boat, normally the marina and then through the canal and then the marina on the other side, you don't import your boat. You just do the normal customs, immigration, quarantine, and away you go. So we're mimicking that. It's just that we can't get through the canal. We're not fast enough. We couldn't go through. If there was some suggestion, Urchin had one agent saying, he could get us through for €50,000 or something, which is about 3,000 each. But I had no idea how that would work. We'd have to wait until every boat was here before we could start that plan, and then it would take longer. And then, you still got the issue of marinas each end and all those sorts of things. So really, the original plan, the idea I had to take it by land, had some challenges, but it's worked out really well. And in fact, I said to a few people, I'm sure there'll be people watching what we just did, and certainly we've got the contacts with Jose. He's got the trailers and stuff like that. And if I had a little boat on the other side, I was wondering how the hell I was going to, if I wanted to cruise through the Atlantic and then go out into the Pacific, all of a sudden there's a proven track now, and that could open it up, because I love little boats, and you've got no money, do a little boat, sail across, and now you can get through the Panama without having to go through the Panama. So I wouldn't be surprised, because I've had a few people asking questions about it without knowing why they want to know, and I think it's because they've possibly got little boats and think, shit, we could take our little boat across there, which would be pretty cool. Anyway, bit of fun. Guidelines are there for a reason, sure. Yeah, they are. Yep. Can some outboard provide charging? Yes, they can. The Evo e-propulsion has like a water generator. That's part of the deal that Popeye and John set up. They've got it so that their outboard's on the back of the boat, and it can charge, and it's meant to be just charging through to charge the battery for the outboard. But they've got a system going there where it can even charge up a little bit of the main boat. So that's why they left their outboards on the back of the boat. But they're not meant to be left on the back of the boat like that. Just put them on, charge the battery on the outboard, and get them off again, because jeepers, a big storm and just wipe them out. But anyway, everyone's got a different way of managing it. So that's how it works. Can some outboard warrant? On a 21-foot racing keel boat, we drop the mast regularly and watch for bending, twisting, turnbuckles, a constant check. Yeah, it was a trap for young players. But the irony was that, of course, when Tracker bent hers on Ayrton's boat, everyone knew, but they still bent John's, which was a bit sad. And so now everyone's really super duper cautious on that. When a customs open for them to apply leave, well, it's open now. They can apply to leave now. So today it's all done over at Flamenco Marina. There's like an office there apparently, so it's up to them to make sure that happens and be ready to go for Monday. They'll be able to make it through customs in time. It's up to them. They should be thinking about that today. So, g'day, Sid. Great having to get all across. Yeah, so far so good, touch wood. Thanks, Sid. It's all worked out okay. What would those who have to need to start late due to them having not been moved, or no, the move wasn't there. I'll give you an example. One day we were there, we got the trailers going, and part of the process is to get out of the water for those that want to work on the bottom and go from there. There's a lot of rescheduling going on, but I asked two of them specifically, said, look, we've got vacancies for 2 boats out of the water. So, oh no, we don't want to leave now because we've just started other jobs and stuff. So that's fine, but you just missed your slot. And then when they get bumped and they go, because the travel lift is huge, as you probably saw, it's being used for all sorts of boats, and they've got to try and juggle it and make all that happen. And then others didn't want to come across because they were settled on their boat over there. And Shelter Bay Marina is really beautiful. It's a nice environment, swimming pool, a bit like a resort. So they were hesitating. They didn't want to be first to come across. And so that was creating things. And then all of a sudden, when they've got it there, they get bumped. And they say, oh, now I'm bumped. Oh, jeepers, maybe I should have gone before. So there was all of this give and take. But I'm not stressed at all. I warned everyone. And there's no different to working on the boats on this side when they're in the marina or working on the boats on the other side of the marina. So it doesn't affect any work schedule. They've got plenty of time to work on their boats on the Pacific side and on the Atlantic side. And so if anyone's not ready to go, it's got nothing to do whatsoever with the trailer. They've had plenty of time, plenty of opportunity to be prepared, and some people had more jobs than others, so that's how it works. Will the other side still be there for the tail end people whose boats are just being moved? Oh, they're already here. The last boats will be done today, so hopefully they'll be launched today. And then they just drive around. So everyone should be, hopefully, touch wood, even though we had the hiccup yesterday, they should be on plate Marina today. Today's Friday, so it gives them Saturday, Sunday, and then gone. So loading water, remaining repairs, getting food into the boats. That's most of them should have done their food on the other side if they're one of the late ones. It's not hard to get food here, and everyone that's here has already got their food, so it should be fine. One of my American friends is currently on the Panama Canal, one of the huge cruise ships. And my princess hope the races from my friend have managed to meet. Yep. Is the road route suitable for day, a 30-foot boat with 12-foot beam, for example, cheaper than the canal? Well, I wouldn't go there. 30-foot boat, 12-foot beam, that's a wide load. It would be more of a boat movement. To give you an idea, there's plenty of boat movements here. It's hard to work out what goes on, but there's a lot of luxury boats coming through. Anyway, Canada Dan had a mate here. As a fallback position, we were possibly going to use his big trailer. He's got this big extendable low loader, flat top low loader. And Dan was saying it could extend out to 40 feet. So we could have got 3 580s on there. I don't know how we prop them up and this, that, and the other, but it was going to cost about 2.5. It was going to do 2 easily, but it was the transit across was going to be about 2,500 US. So it would have been about 1,200 to get a couple of them on this, 1,200 each on this big low loader. That's the sort of boat you could do a bigger boat on, but as soon as it extends out wide, you've probably got different permits and things like that, so the costs start to go. When Coconut came through, he paid, I think it was there, I could check exactly, I think it was 3,000 US for the agent to get the boat through, and then he had higher lines and big fenders and bits and pieces, so probably paid about $4,000 to get his 34-footer through. But I would say for a 30-foot wide beamy boat, I think you'd probably miss the boat in terms of keep it small and get it done easy. I think that probably would be the better way to go. Okay, I think we're just about done. Okay, so I remember the Selden Mast has a hinge base plate, the Sparkcraft does not. No, the Sparkcraft has a spin hinge plate. Was it any more difficult for Urchin to understand? No, it's easy. Our Sparkcraft mast is stunning, to say the least, but it was nearly 3 times the price. But you get what you pay for. I say that, but it's an interesting one because it was like back then it was nearly 6,000 euro for my mast and everything that goes on. It was 5,600 euro. That's for the 2 spinnaker poles, for the furling gear. I've got a fucking furling gear, all link plates and through bolts and everything, massive sleeve. It's a real round the world mast. Not that Selden isn't, but it's cheese and chalk, a lot more expensive, beautiful mast, tapered, the whole works. And the furling gear, the fucking one, you install that yourself. I installed it myself, and it slides up and over. You have a special turnbuckle kit, which is another 600 euro or something, but it goes over the turnbuckle. And it was interesting talking to Dan about his problems with his reefing gear. He's having all sorts of trouble, with spinning the wire out and blah 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 blah, and he basically can't quite manage to get it together on here. So he's going without the reefing gear this time, which is a real blow because, as I say, watch this space between Tahiti and Tonga. Sometimes there's some funny seas there. And if reefing gear is, in my mind, I'm bordering on the fact that making reefing gear is compulsory for the next edition of the MGR because I see them as a safety device. I haven't decided yet. I've got to decide in the next few months. But I see if everyone should be thinking about that issue. And I'm bordering already on the fact that I think we're going to make it mandatory because when you get your weight up the front of the boat's down by the bow and it's screwing all over the place, and if you're in big seas and this, that, and the other, it's a real safety factor, and it's quite so there's quite a few advantages. And again, as a one design, if everyone's in the same boat, it's easy. So watch this space. I haven't decided yet. We're banning the Targas and a few other bits, but watch out for the next notice of race. Anyway, so yeah, our furling gear was very easy to put up. You never spin out. You lock the rigging screw, so I can't lose it there. It should be fine, but I was feeling for Dan a little bit yesterday. We did an interview. We were still interviewing the entrance, which was still put up, but yeah, it's interesting. They are just blocking boats on the land either end to be worked on. Are they just like normal? You probably saw the pictures. There's a lot of photo galleries back there. Just prop them up and just go from there. So they're not hard to do. They just use the standard props with threaded bits. So Don, can you remove Rachel's message from the Don? Can you remove Rachel's message from the screen? Yeah, I don't know why they're popping up all of a sudden. I must have pressed the wrong button. Don, I was late again. Great, Don, never mind, Nigel. It's all there. You can have a bit of fun. And I think we're done. Okay, that's it. So thanks for that. Watch this space. If we don't see you before, we'll see you out on the marina before the start, and then we'll look forward to this really interesting and fascinating leg. It's all about to happen. And I was just saying yesterday, sometimes we're all making it look a little bit easy. But there are real risks involved. This is a serious around-the-world race, and it's very challenging. So don't underestimate the fact that these little boats with amazing skippers are racing solo around the world. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'll press this one, and then we'll see you later.
Witness history in the making. The McIntyre Mini Globe Race 2025. Small boat, huge